Hey everyone, I'm Matt and welcome back to Cobbill Farms. They're forecasting a couple days of some much needed rain around here. I got a couple chores I want to get done this morning and they require the use of my most favorite useful chore tractor on the farm, the New Holland TC35 DA. Whether it's hauling feed bags around on the farm to feed the different animals on our farm, or whether it's to haul firewood from our wood pile down to the house to keep us warm for those cold winter months. I'd be lost without our compact tractor on our farm. I borderline wouldn't be able to function. Normally I take you around the farm and show you what we're doing day to day, but I think today's going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk compact tractors. What is a compact tractor? What are the different class sizes and horsepower ranges for compact tractors? And if you're in the market for a compact tractor, what should you be looking for in making an educated purchase for a compact tractor? What's the first question you should be asking yourself? What am I going to be doing with that compact tractor? What type of things around the farm, my homestead, my small acreage property, what am I going to be doing with it? There's 5 principal sizes or classes of compact tractors out there. There's the 0.5 series, which is labeled a subcompact tractor, anything under 25 horsepower. And then you have the class 1, 2, 3, and 4 series tractors, with a compact tractor being no more than 50 horsepower. The class size of the tractor refers to the frame or chassis size of the tractor. Each class size tractor will have varying horsepower ranges, and some of those horsepower ranges will even overlap depending on the class size of the tractor. So what class size tractor do I go with? Well, if you own just a small little acreage that basically all you want to do is maintain some flower beds, mow your yard with that tractor, then a subcompact tractor, class 0.5, would probably be more up your alley. If you're going to maintain a little bit larger area, maybe mow a small brush field, then a class 1 or 2 tractor is up your alley. If you're going to do a little bit of gardening work with it, maybe run a rototiller off the back and again mow your yard and maintain some of your property around your house, then maybe a class 3, which that's what this New Holland TC35 is more up your alley. If you're going to be doing large acreage, you want to pull some farm implements with it, move round bales around and such, then maybe the larger class 4 tractor is what you're looking for. Then the next thing you got to ask yourself, once you've narrowed down what class tractor you think best fits your operation, you got to ask yourself, do I go buy new or do I buy used? That can be a tricky question. Prices of new stuff are expensive, but the price of a good used tractor is really not that far behind a new one. The difference between the newer tractors of today and the tractors of 20 years ago, it would be emissions. Now, I'm not going to get too much into detail with emissions, mainly because I don't want to give you misinformation, but I will say one thing: for the amount of times I've had to deal with emissions, it's a headache. So it is really something you need to ask yourself. Do I want to get a new tractor with emissions, or do I want to look for something that's a little bit older and a little bit easier for somebody to work on versus a dealership? So now you've decided you're in the market for a used tractor, specifically a class 3 series tractor, and that's what we have here. This Kubota is an L2900. It was manufactured by Kubota from 1994 to 1999 and is roughly 33 horsepower. This New Holland is a TC35DA, roughly 35 horsepower. It was manufactured by the Schaber Company for New Holland from 2003 to 2005. So I find a tractor that I want to go look at. What's the first thing you do when you get there? Well, the first thing I do is I walk around it and I do a visual inspection of the whole tractor. What I do is I start at the very front of the tractor. On this tractor, it'll be the bucket. And I look to see what kind of condition it's in. See if there's any cracks. See if the cutting edge is worn, how far back it's worn. If that bucket is in overall generally good condition, but the cutting edges wore back, a good option is a bolt-on cutting edge. If it's not wore back into the bolt holes that are already pre-drilled into the bucket to accept a bolt-on cutting edge, that's a great option because it gives the bucket a new surface to wear on and prolong the life of that bucket. Next, I like to look at where the bucket connects to the loader itself. I like to look and make sure that the pins are all in proper position. It's the proper pins. Looks like things have been greased. If you don't see grease, does it look rusty? Does it look like it hasn't been maintained? I like to look at the cylinders, make sure they're in overall good condition. There should be no dents in the barrel of the cylinder itself. That would indicate an issue inside with the piston and a potential problem for that cylinder. There's also no leaks where the rod comes out of the head of the cylinder. I like to look at the condition of the hoses. I like to make sure that the outer rubber's not flaking off like this one is, or cracking. And more of the same once you get to the top of the loader. Now I want to look at the front of the tractor, particularly the hood area. The hood area of a tractor will tell you a lot about its life. Is it bright and shiny, that it's been stored inside all its life? Is it faded? Is it even rusted if it's a metal hood? That'll tell you that the tractor's probably sat outside most of its life. I like to look at the grill area. Is it all smashed in? Is things broke? That'll tell you that with a loader on a tractor, it's probably been asked to do things that it really wasn't designed for, and it gets you wondering what kind of damage is done behind the grill that you can't see. As I walk along, I like to look at the seat. Is it torn? Is it in good shape? I like to look at the fenders. What kind of shape are the fenders in? I like to look at the tire and the tire tread. We'll get back to tires in a little bit. As I work my way back around the back of the tractor, again, just looking at everything. What kind of shape are the lights in? What about the 3-point hitch arms? Is everything there? How about looseness? Anything bent, broken? Hydraulic lines, are they bent, missing? Are they leaking? I like to look at the drawbar, specifically the drawbar hole. That'll tell you a lot too. Is the drawbar straight? Is it bent? Is the hole oblonged? A lot of things to look at. As I walk around the other side, it's more of the same. Look at the fender. Look at all the control levers or all the knobs there. What kind of shape are the steps in? Are they bent up? Are they solid? All things to look at when you're taking into account, should I buy this tractor or not? One other key feature when shopping for any compact tractor is making sure that any safety features that were original equipment to that tractor are there and functional. Most compact tractors to date were built with some sort of seat switch, a range lever switch, and a PTO lever switch. Sometimes they also had a brake switch. That depended on the manufacturer. I've done a walk around of the tractor, and so far I like what I see. I want to continue. So next thing I like to do is start pulling dipsticks. I like to start with the engine oil, and I like to see what the engine oil looks like. Is it black? Is it milky? Is it way over full? Is it low? Next, I like to move on to the oil that's in the rear of the tractor. In most cases, your transmission housing is your reservoir for your hydraulic oil. There should be either a dipstick, a sight glass, or a check plug somewhere that's going to give you the indication of the proper oil level. If you're looking at buying a tractor that's got a four-wheel drive or front end assist, there has to be oil in that front axle. On this tractor, the oil is indicated by this yellow cap. Has a dipstick on it about that long. You pull that out and you check the oil level, just like you would any other tractor with a dipstick. Along with the oil that's in the front axle, each final drive assembly out here at your wheels is going to have oil in it as well. That's usually a different oil, usually just 90 weight gear oil. That's going to have a separate fill and drain plug on the back side of the rim. Usually you have to remove the front wheels to get to those. So that's hard to check. Crawl underneath here and look and see if there's any dampness, any dark, real dark dirt that would indicate a dirt mixed with oil and a potential problem. And sometimes you'll even see oil dripping down off of this lower housing in a wet inside wheel. Now that we have the hood up on the tractor, let's do an overall inspection under the hood. Let's check belts, radiator hoses, fuel lines, power steering hoses, anything that would have any kind of issues, leaks. Check the water pump, make sure there's no play in any of the bearings. Just do an overall inspection and make sure everything looks okay. Now we've opened the hood on the tractor, I want to check the fluids under the hood, meaning the radiator fluid and the power steering fluid. The radiator fluid, as long as the radiator is cool, you should open the radiator up very slowly and remove the cap to see what kind of condition the fluid in the radiator is in. If it's bright green like this one is, it's good condition, it's probably in good shape. If it's brown, it could indicate rust or another problem that might need to be addressed. This particular tractor has an expansion tank. When the radiator gets hot and the antifreeze expands, it'll expand into the overflow tank. So this radiator should be full. If you don't have an expansion tank, then usually you leave the radiator down a few inches to allow for that expansion. Next, we move on to the power steering fluid. On this tractor, looks like it's in pretty good shape. Now, this reservoir on this tractor is also a filter. This does have a service life and it does need to be changed. It's not just a metal canister that's holding fluid. One other thing I want to cover with the front is, remember I talked about earlier the condition of the grill? This is the area that you want to look at. You want to look at all the coolers, the radiator, the hydraulic oil cooler, the battery. Is there any damage to any of it? If there's no damage to any of it, then you're probably in pretty good shape. So now that we've done our walk around, we've looked under the hood, now it's time to climb in the seat and check the operator station. So now I like to look at my gauges and make sure everything is there and present, nothing's cracked or broke. I like to look at all my switches. Do they all move and operate correctly? And knowing what they are helps as well. Does my throttle move freely? Now I want to start the tractor. But first, do all my indicator lights come on? Then I'm going to start the tractor. How easy did the tractor start? If the glow plugs are working properly, the tractor should start pretty easy. If you got glow plugs that aren't working, on colder days, it may crank and smoke a lot before it starts. If that's what happens, you have indications that maybe glow plugs aren't working. A block heater is a great solution to help the tractor start a lot easier in the winter time, and it makes the glow plugs last longer because they don't have to work as hard. There's two last things I want to check before we shut the tractor off, and that's the power takeoff and your 3-point hitch arms. Does my power takeoff shaft spin when I put it in gear? And does it stop when I pull it out of gear? I also want to check to make sure my 3-point hitch arms go up and down. They go down when I put the lever in the lower position, and then they come up when I put it in the raised up position. One last thing I want to do before I shut the tractor off is raise the front end off the ground. By lifting the front end off the ground, you can check your tie rod ends for play. You can check your steering cylinder bushings for play. You can also look and see if there's any leaks of any kind and just an overall general condition of it. You can spin the front wheels over. Is there any excessive noise coming from your final drives? Does your front axle pivot freely side to side? Is there play front to back? If you have play front to back, then that indicates that your bushings are wore out. If it binds and you can't pivot the axle side to side, then that indicates lack of grease and your bushings are set up, and either way the front end's going to need attention. So now that we've done a pretty thorough walk around and a test drive of that tractor, some other things to take into consideration. What's the hour meter on that tractor say compared to the rest of the shape of the tractor? If that hour meter says it's only got 200 hours on it, but the rest of the tractor is telling you it looks like it's got 2,000 hours on it, well, you got to ask yourself, is there a problem with that hour meter? Has that hour meter been replaced? What's the deal? Something doesn't add up here. I mostly did a walk around of the New Holland and did a test drive on the New Holland. But the Kubota's sitting here for a reason as well, because there's a few differences on this tractor compared to this tractor that I want to point out. The first one might be an obvious one, is tires. This tractor has what they call an industrial or an R4 tire. What you'll notice with this, and yes, these bars are wore down, but what you'll notice is the bar is shorter and it also is wider than say an ag tire or a turf tire. So what that constitutes is if you're going to be doing some yard work with this tractor, but also want to head out in the woods to cut some firewood or mow a field with it, then this is a good all-around general purpose tire to use. Where the Kubota here has an R1 or an agricultural tire. This has a really thin bar, which is usually a lot taller as well, and they're designed for biting into dirt, biting into mud, and they're a little more aggressive on a yard. You don't want to use one of these, especially in four-wheel drive, too much in grass because it'll peel that grass open pretty good. Now the other option for a tire is a turf tire, and I don't have a version of that here, but that's basically nothing more than a tread pattern that would be on your lawnmower, and that's really only good for turf operation. If you're going to use it for like a snow blower in the winter months on a blacktop driveway, it'll be all right for that too, but don't really plan on taking it out in the woods to go drag logs or something like that. They're not really designed for that. One other thing about this tractor is this has what they call a fixed ROPS, rolled over protection system. This one doesn't move. Its height is exactly what it is. So you got to take that into account depending on where you're going to store the tractor. Do I have enough headroom for this tractor to fit in my garage or my barn? Where my New Holland has a foldable ROPS. This one folds down, gives me a little more clearance. This allows me to put this in the bottom of my barn, where normally with the ROPS up, I lack about that much from being able to put it in the barn with the ROPS up. One of the most notable differences between this New Holland and that Kubota is the transmissions that are in the tractor. This is a hydrostat system, a lot like lawnmowers these days. This tractor has a range lever, 1 and 2, so you pick a range whichever one you want to be in, 1 being slower, 2 being faster. And then you have an infinitely variable forward pedal and an infinitely variable reverse pedal. So you can vary your speed forward or back. Now, you also have an electrical switch over here, what I call the turtle and the rabbit, that you can have a high and a low speed in each range as well. So for going down the road, I'll put this in range 2 and click the electrical switch to rabbit, and that's as fast as I can go. And you can also vary your speed based on RPM. If you're trying to maintain an RPM 540 out the back with a brush hog on the back or a rototiller, these are great because you can speed up or slow down based on what you're trying to do with just moving the pedal forward or back. This Kubota, on the other hand, has what they call a shuttle shift transmission. Specifically, this has an 8x8 mechanical forward-reverse shuttle shift transmission. To start with, you have a 2-speed selector range over here. You have a turtle and a rabbit. And then over here, you have a 4-speed gear selection. Up on the dash, you have a shuttle lever. Forward is forward, reverse is reverse. All this works in conjunction with a clutch pedal. Now, the one thing about the shuttle transmission is you can change gears on the fly. You cannot change ranges on the fly, but you can shift gears while pushing in the clutch. Same thing with changing direction. You can push in the clutch and you can throw the lever from forward to reverse without changing any gears. Each one of those transmissions operate uniquely in their own way. The shuttle shift transmission is all mechanical, it's all gears. The hydrostat has gears along with hydraulic fluid and piston pumps and things like that that are good, but they also come with their downfalls as well. Something like this, if you plan on doing any kind of tillage work with it, or pulling any real heavy loads for a long period of time, you're going to burn that hydrostat out. Keeping good hydraulic fluid and a clean filter on it is key, and not overheating the oil. If you're going to do tillage work of any kind, pulling a plow, pulling a disc, things like that where there's a lot of pulling work involved all the time, then a shuttle shift transmission is what you want. You can't replace gear to gear power. So now I've made a decision that I think I'm going to buy this tractor. There's one more thing that you got to take into consideration before you pull the trigger and you say, I'm going to buy this tractor. And that's dealership support. Do I have to drive an hour to get parts or service for this tractor? Or do I have 4 dealerships in a 10-mile radius that sell this tractor? Those are things you have to ask yourself, because without dealership support, having a tractor that you can't get fixed is just a waste of money. So with everything we just talked about, the best thing I can say is walk around that tractor and just look at it. Every time you walk around it, you're gonna see something that you didn't see before. So to sort of wrap this up, the last thing I wanna say, when you're shopping for a compact tractor, I personally stay away from auctions. My experience has been auctions are a breeding ground for problems. Things usually go there because they have a problem and the seller just wants it gone. I personally would either shop from a dealer on used equipment or a private sale. Then you're at least dealing face to face with the person that's selling you that tractor. The other thing is if you're not mechanically inclined, if you know somebody that is, ask them to come with you. Have them look the tractor over. They might see something that you might not. Finding the right compact tractor is crucial for your satisfaction and your pocketbook. Knowing you spent that amount of money on the right tool for the job, there's no more satisfaction than that. Our New Holland TC35DA is the perfect chore tractor for our farm. It's not too small, it's not too big. It's just right. We hope you found this video informative. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you like our channel, as always, we ask you to subscribe. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.